Hello, this is Veronica with Once Upon a Homeschooler. I'm here today to do a video review of Primary Mathematics 1A textbook and workbook, United States edition, written by the Department of Education in Singapore. These books are commonly referred to as Singapore Mathematics, but they're just basically the national curriculum used in Singapore classrooms. And the U.S. edition means that instead of using the Singaporean weights and measures and money, they use the American version instead. So you don't have to worry about converting money, and the pictures are things they're familiar with. Other than that, there's not a lot of difference. And basically, this is an introductory page here just to tell you how to use the book, but I'm going to kind of walk you through it instead. The table of contents for the textbook is pretty simple. There's only 9 lessons in the first half of the year. That's it, just 9 lessons. They do get, they start out really super easy, and they do get hard fast, especially in the next book and in the 2A. So you might have a child fly through this, and here's the workbook. You might have a child fly through this in the beginning, but then they get stuck all of a sudden because they do go really fast through the beginning content. And it is super easy, so they can fly through several pages in a day, but eventually they'll reach a page where they haven't had enough review, or they didn't understand it deeply enough, and they might get stuck. So you don't want to let your child rush through these too fast. That's one of the mistakes I made. This is the table of contents for the workbook. It's a little bit different from the textbook because it's going through the workbook exercises. You'll notice that there are reviews built into the program, which are kind of like tests, but I don't like that they put all the reviews together. So you have review 1, 2, and 3 at once. You have review 4 and 5 at once. And then at the end, you have reviews 6 and 7 at once. I wish they would have spread them out a little bit more throughout the program. And the reviews are not scheduled for you in the guide here. There isn't really a schedule for Singapore Mathematics. You can make one. But if you open it up here, I'm just going to show you a few lessons so you can kind of get the idea. And I'll show you how much you do a day, basically, if you really want it to kind of equal about 180 days. Here's lesson 1. We're just going to work on counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have the number. We have the number written down, the number of dots to represent the amount, and a number of objects to represent the amount. They are expected to remember how to make the number 5, how to read the number 5, how to write the number 5, and how to count to 5 in this lesson. So it looks like it's pretty easy, but it kind of can trip you up a little later if they don't learn how to read and write the numbers, because they won't be covering this again as a lesson. So that's it for the first few pages, and then they have an activity for you to do. When they have an activity like this, they do not expect you to write in the textbook. The textbook should be reusable, so you would just count with them through this. And then here at the bottom it says workbook exercises 1 and 2. So you would be done with the textbook for the day. I'm going to leave it over here on the side open because we're going to come back to it in a minute. And then you would move on to your workbook. Workbook exercise 1, you just draw a line from the kite's number and number of objects to the matching number on the bottom. So as you can see, you might not have expected this from the textbook because it didn't really go over it a lot. And if you turn the page and do the back of exercise 1A, sometimes there's a back, sometimes there isn't. You're going to just match again the number to the word. And that would be it for the day. The next day you would come back and you would finish that. You would come back, you would do exercise 2. And you would just go through this. It's counting the objects and writing the numbers in the box. So now they need to know how to write their numbers already. And then on the back, they're going to be coloring the correct number of objects. When you're done with that, the next day you would come back and you would move on to the next lesson. And you would have this page. Do the sets have the same number? There's 3 robots and 3 dolls, so they each get a partner. But there is an extra bird, and there is not an extra penguin, so the birds are left out. So you would just talk about this with your child and go through it, or have your child read or look through it and see if they can figure out the rules. And then you would talk about how many butterflies there are, which set has more and which set has less. This is your whole introduction to more and less here. So if your child has trouble with that concept, you'd want to make sure that they understand every concept being shown to them on the page. And then we're going to do workbook exercise 3. Workbook exercise 3 has you just circle the same number of objects, the 2 with the same number of objects. And that's it for that side. And then on the back here, we're just going to check which one has more. And then on the bottom, we're going to check the set that has less. And that is it for that. Then the next day, you would come back. You would do the next stage, which is counting to 10. What comes next? Counting backwards, finding the missing numbers. That's all in one lesson. And it looks very light and easy, but that's a lot of topics to cover in one lesson. And then you come over to workbook exercise 4. You're going to do 2 different dot to dots. And then you're going to fill in the missing numbers. Okay? And then you're just going to keep on going like that through the rest of the book. The next page is the next chapter. It's chapter 2, number bonds. There are 5 penguins swimming. There are 5 penguins, 2 are swimming, 3 are not swimming. So 3 plus 2 equals 5 whole parts. And then you're going to make up some more stories about the penguins according to the different number bonds they gave you. So there are 4 awake and 1 is sleeping, and so on and so forth. And then you're going to do the same thing with the children and the umbrellas. And here is a Mr. 6, and on your workbook page, you're going to see Mr. 6, and he is going to want you to find the balloons, for example, equals 6, so those you would color. And the first bow here equals 6, but this one here does not, so you would not color this one, and so on and so forth. And then on the back of that is exercise 6 already, so you would just do that one page. So now I'm just going to skip ahead a little ways because I can't show you every page in the book. And I am going to go to, I'm just going to, I got the page stuck together here. We are going to go to methods of subtraction here. And this is kind of fun because they like to give you a whole bunch all of a sudden at once. So we are going to do this page. And it just basically shows you some more subtraction from what you were doing in the previous lesson, and some more ways to subtract. And then we're going to complete the number sentences, and here's some more exercises I'm going to skip, but I'm just going to kind of skip along here to the end of the subtraction so you kind of see what we're working on. And here it says we're going to do workbook exercises 29 to 31. But then I had to come in on the next page when we were doing ordinal numbers and write in that they completely skipped to do reviews 1, 2, and 3. So if I skip over here to the workbook to show you the reviews, they're just like a test. And I gotta find the right page. Here's review 1. And we're gonna start reviewing what we learned at the beginning, counting the numbers, writing them in. And here we're supposed to write the numbers in words, but of course my child doesn't like words, so she just wrote them in numbers. And then over here, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be reviewing it. And the review is several pages long, so you can break this up into more than one day if you want to, but you don't have to. And then the next day, they'd come back and they'd do another review. Review 2, there's some subtracting and adding, all different things like that there together. And then review 3 the next day, which is just some more of the same thing all over again. So you have 3 different days of reviews in a row. And that's pretty much it for the review. And then you just go right back to your textbook and go right back to the next lesson, which would be ordinal numbers. And then you would do the workbook exercises and so on there. There's a bunch of different topics in here. I kind of showed you an introduction to them all at the beginning. And I'm going to just skip back here to the weights and measures so you can see that they use, here's longer and shorter. I'm trying to see if this one uses, they use units here. I'm trying to see if they use inches and things like that, but here they're using units, and they're using paper clips to measure the number of units. And then here they have weights, and here they are just with a scale that doesn't measure weight exactly. It measures which one weighs more or less, heavier and lighter. And basically that's it for that. They're going to end up right about here with weights and measurements, which one's the heaviest, which one's the lightest. And over here in the back of our workbook pages, I'm just going to show you the last few pages. There's patterns and stuff. But here's the last few workbook pages, and they're going to go which one's heavier, which one's lighter, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, you see the children thinking, little boxes of the children thinking throughout the different measurements here. And you do need a few manipulatives. You do need a balance. You can see which ones are heavier and which ones are lighter. You need the paper clips to be able to measure, and so on and so forth. But basically, there can be done with very few manipulatives, It's pretty simple to use. It's pretty simple to do. It doesn't take very long per day. The work or the textbook is full color, so that's a lot of fun for children who need the color. The pictures are fun for children. They're not boring pictures. The names, if you get into the names, some of them are English names. Some of them are, you can tell they're more Singaporean names. They're more Chinese in nature. And the children are a variety of ethnicities, and that's kind of fun too if you have children from different racial backgrounds, especially because they don't see a lot of their names or their pictures about themselves in math books. They're primarily more of the white culture. And these two do kind of lean heavily toward the white cultured children, but you can also see children of different cultures and different names. Not so much in book 1A, but you can in some of the later books. So that's a fun aspect for children. Basically, if your child really gets math and they love math and math comes easy to them and they can think through their head what is 12 plus 24 and they don't need to stop and figure it out, and they can sit there and look at a picture and kind of know what it means, and they don't need a lot of review, this is going to work for them. It's fast, it's easy, it's effective, it goes through and it teaches you how to really think about math. But if your child kind of struggles with math, if they need more practice a day than just a few problems, or if they need to go over a concept for more than just a couple days at a time, this program might not work for them because they're going to be covering maybe a week or two of subtraction, and then you're not going to see it again until they're subtracting double digits. It's just going to go away, except for in a few reviews once in a while, which is, I think there's 3 different review areas in the first 4.5 months, so there's not a lot of review. So this topic is going to go away after you're done with it, and you're not going to come back to it again until you're getting to a harder topic. And the harder topics, they come and they just kind of take you by surprise sometimes, because you'll be sitting over here talking about how to add, and then all of a sudden you're going to be multiplying, and you're not going to realize that you're building up to multiplying because you're adding groups of the same number. But it's just going to kind of surprise you sometimes, surprise your students. So if you have the kind of child that needs extra help in math, or needs to think about math, or they need extra practice in math, or they need to keep reviewing it, this might not work as well. It might work as a supplement, but it might not work as a main program. Singapore does offer additional books, the challenging word problems, which really are, there's a word probleming book and there's a challenge book, and they really do bring it to the next level, but they don't necessarily offer more practice as they go deeper into it. So if your child is struggling with the basics, going deeper might not help them quite yet. So there is that to take into consideration. But this book is great for children who just naturally and intuitively know math and don't need a lot of instruction to get there. They just need you to show them how to do it. This book is perfect for that. It's also perfect for children who don't like to write a lot, children who don't like to spend a lot of time on math and things like that. So I think that's it. If you have any other questions, let me know, and I'll probably be doing some more Singapore math books later so you can see a couple different levels. Other than that, if you have any questions, let me know, and thank you and have a blessed day.